What is your foot's favorite type of chip?
You got me.
Doritos.
Gotcha. That's a mildly amusing dad joke.
Thank you. Welcome to ClackCo Works, where we have chats with the people who make Clackamas County work for their community. We are joined this morning by Greg Geist, who is the director of Clackamas Water Environment Services. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Okay. So, first off, what exactly is Clackamas Water Environment Services?
Good question. We are a special district, which means we have ratepayers instead of taxpayers, and we serve about 200,000 people in the urbanized area of Clackamas County with wastewater and stormwater and surface water services.
Okay. So let's go into that. So what is wastewater? That's the toilet stuff, right?
Right.
I mean, okay. And what do you guys do to it?
Well, the simplest way to describe it is we take what goes down your toilet, your sink, your shower, industries, and we make three things out of it. We make clean water that goes back out to the river for downstream uses. We make biogas, which we then burn to make electricity, which we can power up to about half of our industrial facility, treatment facility using that biogas. And we make a natural fertilizer called biosolids that goes out to Eastern Oregon and is applied on agricultural fields.
It only goes out to Eastern Oregon?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. We call ourselves a water resource recovery facility because that's what we do. It's not a sewage treatment plant. It does treat sewage, but it recovers those resources.
Okay. Right. And makes good things out of them.
It does.
What about surface water? What do you mean by surface water?
Surface water. So if a developer comes in and wants to put in a subdivision, we have rules and regulations to make sure that the water, the fertilizers, the greases that happen just with urban living get treated before they go out to the river.
Okay, great. So why you said it's a service district, Clackamas Water Environment Services, also known as WES. It's a department of the county, a big department of the county. Why is it important? Like what would happen, what happens if there isn't the WES to, go around and help treat the water and manage the water?
Well, I like to say, clean water is the biggest lifesaver in human history, by far. Bigger than penicillin, bigger than anything. Because of the pathogens that are in wastewater. And having that get into the drinking water system is catastrophic for a community. I mean, we would have dirty rivers, we'd have sick people, we'd have a devastated economy if we weren't doing, in conjunction with our folks on the drinking water side, the work that we're doing on behalf of the community. So we take a lot of pride and have a lot of passion about that because it is absolutely vital infrastructure for this community.
And it needs, for that, since that public safety is obviously, since clean water is so vital to public safety, we can't continue to build unless we have those water systems in place.
Exactly. Right. Yeah, it's a little different. Roads, you can have traffic jams in roads, but you really can't have that in a wastewater system. You have to have the capacity when you need it.
Right. That's a good way to think about it.
Yeah.
Where does WES serve? So what, does it serve the entire county or just one of the areas that?
So the urbanized area, so everything from Westland, Oregon City, Gladstone, north to the far reaches of Happy Valley, all the way down to Milwaukee and kind of everything in between. That's our main service area. We also serve some smaller little communities, Boring and Hoodland up on the mountain.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So I would imagine there's to do this right, because it is such a critical component to public safety and everything with building and just, growing the economy and new houses and that sort of thing. There must be a whole lot of planning that goes into it.
Yes. That is really the foundation of what we do. Since I became the director in 2016, and we immediately started doing long-range, what we call master plan or facility planning. So that's looking out 20 to 40 years. What is the condition of our infrastructure and what are our needs for future growth? We do population studies in conjunction with that to really get a good long-term picture of what our region's infrastructure needs are. And then we go through and we do what we call a capital plan, an infrastructure plan to say, okay, what do we need to build and when do we need to build it?
Right.
Then we couple that with a long-range financial plan that says so then we know what we need to build, when we need to build it, and how we're going to pay for it.
Right.
And it's all predicated on those plans. And it gives us a really good picture of the future, and it allows us to have really predictable, steady rates over time.
Yeah, and that's important to reiterate. So that's all pretty much based on growth and population growth.
Well, if you look at our capital plan, it's about 60% of it is maintaining our existing infrastructure. A lot of this, our stuff was built in the 70s, and it needs to be maintained.
But you have to account for the growth of the
right, and then 40% is the population growth.
Okay, I get it. Okay.
Right.
So then, with that growth, I think it's important to reiterate that the county, a decent chunk or the percentage that the county gets besides state funds and federal funds to do things is based on, property taxes and taxpayer stuff. But the West revenue really comes from the ratepayers themselves.
It does.
So it's not really taxes, it's the rates that are charged. And then with that planning, is it something where you see what's coming ahead of time, and so it allows you to sort of give a glide path on the rates, so it isn't too much of sticker shock one year where it goes up?
Absolutely, yeah. It's reasonable and predictable over time. And there's one other component. When we look at growth, we do population forecasts. We figure out what kind of infrastructure we're going to need. And there's things called system development charges in addition to rates. So that's the amount of money that a developer would pay essentially to buy into that future capacity for our system. And so by knowing what growth is going to happen and when, and what infrastructure we need to build in order to accommodate it, that's what allows us to charge those system development charge fees to cover that.
Okay. And so, when I've dealt with West before, occasionally it's, you guys are always working on these bigger sort of projects. What would be a good example of a wastewater project just, recently that you've accomplished?
Our Clackamas project. So we did we have an outfall that takes our treated effluent from our treatment facility in Oregon City out to the Willamette River. That was built in 1986, and it was nearing capacity during wet weather events like we recently experienced. So we built a second outfall just this past summer. And it was a multi-year project, but we've pretty much finished it this past summer.
And that's basically creating this. I mean, the Clackamas itself, that name was from the community.
Right. So we used a tunnel boring machine. It was 9 feet in diameter, about 50 feet long, a massive piece.
It looks like a transformer. It looks like one of those things that could, transform up and destroy everybody. But, it's a huge thing that's lowered into the ground.
Right. And then it tunneled its way out to the Willamette River.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of fun, a lot of community engagement on that. It's tradition in the industry to name those tunnel boring machines. And so we got over 650 suggestions from the public, which was really neat.
And how long was it? How long was the actual tunnel?
50 feet. Oh, no, the tunnel was about a mile.
A mile. And how long did it take to actually just to do digging?
Well, it got stuck once for a couple weeks, but it took about 2 months.
2 months?
Once it gets going, it doesn't stop.
Yeah.
You don't want it to stop anyway.
Right. And then you got to pull the thing out.
Well, it bored its way out into the river. Yeah. We made a pad for it, and then we lifted it up, put it on a barge, and sent it back to Germany where it came from.
It was a heck of a thing. But it's great because that's what's needed for growth and making sure that there's enough. Well, like you said, outfall, that there's enough capacity to go ahead and push out the water that needs to get back out there.
Right. And I'm proud to say that project was on time, on budget. It was a $58 million project, so a big one for us. And it's going to provide us capacity out to 2080. Yeah. So it was a large and long-term infrastructure investment. Yeah.
Yeah. And what about, what's an example of some surface water projects that have been going on?
By far the coolest one is our Carly Creek project. So the Clackamas industrial area, kind of south of Highway 212, that was developed back, prior to the Clean Water Act. There was no, and prior to West, so there was no stormwater rules and regulations in order to treat, the oils and the greases and the brake dust and everything that happens in an industrial area.
Right.
It was just piped out to Carly Creek, which goes into the Clackamas River above our region's drinking water intakes.
Yeah.
So we saw an opportunity there to buy a 15-acre farm from the Harley family, which had been a farm for about 100 years. And we were able to replumb essentially the infrastructure for 400 acres in that Clackamas industrial area. And rather have it go directly into Carly Creek and the Willamette, it goes through a constructed treatment wetland on that 15 acres of property that used to be the farm. Great project. We also restored about 1,400 feet of Carley Creek. It used to just be a ditch, and now it's a healthy, fish-friendly habitat, and a significant increase in safety when it comes to our drinking water.
It's tremendous.
Yeah, it was a fun project.
That's great. So, when we talk about Clackamas Water Environment Services, whenever we do a lot of community engagement for the county as a whole, the stuff that Wes does, always, people love and people want to get involved with, and they're really happy that the county is doing it. How can, people get more involved with Wes? Because you do have a lot of sort of volunteer activities.
Right. I'd say the best way is to get involved with Solve. So Wes has had an 8-year relationship now with Solve, which is a
different nonprofit,
a volunteer organization. They were famous for beach cleanups, but they do trash cleanups all over the state. And they have, we partnered with them on a summer waterways cleanup series. So it's a series of cleanup events all over the state, really, and in the county that focus on cleaning up near waterways. We've done it John Storm Park, at Clackamas Park, at High Rocks, and that we've had a lot of great community involvement in that. So I would say look on our website, look at Solve, get out there, clean up some trash. If it goes on the ground, it gets in the river. So do your part.
Yeah, that's great. And people can sign in. People can learn more online at clackamas.us/west.
Yes.
For email updates and that sort of
thing. Right. We have a variety of community events. We love getting out there.
That's great. Greg Geist is Director of Clackamas Water Environment Services at the county. He does important work, and we thank him for it. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.